I had one question for you. For example, I remember there used to be this conflict of trademark names or domain names on the internet earlier.
Yes.
I distinctly remember there was an issue with Sushmita Sen. Somebody had registered sushmitasen.com somewhere outside India, and she had actually to go and fight a case in that country, and she actually won and ultimately got her domain back. Similarly, if somebody has a common name and has registered a name somewhere else, but if, say for example, my name is Dale. Now if I have a company, say for example Dale Media, and there is another Dale in US or UK who has registered Dale Media, but is not using that as a company, not started a company, whereas I'm running the company already and I'm popular as a company. Is it possible for me to enter that market and get that name from that person if he's not started the company yet? Just as in, on the net we have these cyber squatters
you're
who
talking
just
of,
register a name and sit with it.
Yeah. You're talking of a name, whether it's a domain name or it's a company or it's a registered.
No, I'm talking from a company point of view, not on the internet.
You're talking of a company is registered.
Company is registered.
The law says very clearly a company name. If somebody's got a company name, he cannot, anybody else can't use it, has a trademark or any others. But if he is not using the company name, you can claim that right and have that mark removed. And you can claim that right. Now in the domain, this domain registrar will register only your names which are registered with the trademarks office. They ask the first question, have you registered a trademark? If you have not registered, a domain registrar will not grant you the domain name. Because there has been many cases wherein, especially I'll give you McDonald's, Coca-Cola, all these names have been registered by others and it had to be, there were huge fight and then they had to transfer.
Okay.
And if you have a court case, the court gives you a grant that the domain has to be transferred and they have to transfer. So you have a system now in place. A domain name cannot be registered unless you have a registered
trademark. I also have a question for you.
Sure.
You used the word consolidation in terms of the net media, various media coming together.
Right.
What do you see as in future? What kind of consolidation do you see between the various media, not just the net media, but the various media, including the print, television, net, radio, mobile space? Do you see any kind of consolidation with the kind of social media, the way it's spreading? Do you see any kind of consolidation between the medias, like a cross branding?
So we are in the business of print media, so, we do events and all of that. I think increasingly what is happening here is that mediums which offer you great possibilities in terms of connecting with a wider audience are going to work. Print, I believe that print is going to get consolidated eventually over a period of time because there is a huge cost, to printing a magazine, logistics and all of that. Television has a benefit. While the production costs are high because of employees and the crews and the equipment and all of that, but it has a possibility of reaching a far wider audience. Right? Once you record a program, it can reach millions of people, and there is no limit to broadcasting of that show. Similarly, social media is one thing. There is a raging debate in US about social media because a lot of journalists feel that people who tweet, they are essentially getting into their domain. Because today I can tweet, news. If I'm attending, for example, in a B2B kind of an environment, I'm attending a Cisco forum and I'm sitting there and there is a big announcement that John Chapel makes during his keynote, right? And I can tweet as a delegate and not necessarily a media person. So eventually, there is a huge debate going in terms of, do you require journalism? Because there's a lot of, consumer activism happening and there are people blogging and people who write well, people who write in a very informed way. So there is always going to be a clash. I think that will increase and there could be a possible clash between the pure journalism as it exists now and the blogging community and the social media community who will probably get more active and there will be more activism. So I think consolidation is in that print and those things, physical mediums will, because of the logistics and the cost and all, will essentially feel the pressure. But otherwise, I think, that's how it essentially pan out. Television, I think, is going to be big interactive television, whatever you might add to it, television is going to be bigger than what it is now.
I'd like to add, we were trying to do some marketing part also. Today, like the print and the TV and all the other media is so expensive. The social media will have a bigger reach and it's much cheaper. So that is becoming attractive for a lot of businesses. Today it's very, very expensive to advertise or market in terms of even a hoarding, plain simple hoarding if you take, is very expensive. So social media is working out much. Like we are running a program now for our restaurant and we are purely on that. Though we have put up a few hoardings and all, but purely we are trying to do it through the social media part. So that's working on.
And it works because there is also user reference available.
Yes.
If a friend recommends, most of the time, we don't realize it happens at a very subconscious level. A lot of decisions we make about going to a place, for food or buying a thing is based on recommendations from friends. We don't realize this. Car. Yes, I want to buy a car. We actually, it's essentially an amalgamation of what you've heard from your friends and close associates, saying that this car is good, this car is not good, or whatever. You carry that influence everywhere you go, and social media does exactly that. If you've been following Sam, and he happens to go to a nice restaurant, maybe Maples, and he says great food, right? You would want to go and visit there, right? It's there in your consciousness. And then, it becomes a soft influence on you. So next time you're talking and saying, oh, you're going to be in Manderi, let's try at Maples because, Sam said it's a good restaurant, good food or whatever. So I think we don't realize that social media in that sense is actually how we used to conduct the old business.
Yes.
It is actually like conducting old business. Because what was old business? Speak to any guy who goes to the chemical bazaar or market, masjid. What do they do? Most of the deals happen over the phone, but he still goes there, shakes hands with people, saying kaisa hai, kaisa nahi. If you've been to the chemical bazaar, they don't have offices. They just have one chair and one table, and that's all they can afford because it's very expensive. Right? They just go there, sitting in the market, shaking hands with each other, and that's exactly what social media is. And at the end of the day, it's about credibility and consistency. Any business is about that, right? Credibility, consistency, and reputation. So those are the three things, and I think social media maybe you have to. I don't think it's going to be overnight.
Sorry to interrupt. You said credibility. Now you also made a statement earlier saying that journalists might be outdated over a period of time. Everybody is trying to be a journalist on social media, but the journalists who represent the print, television, radio media actually bring in more credibility compared to user on the internet who's tweeting or putting something on Facebook. Because manipulation on Twitter or Facebook is extremely easy compared to if I'm a company and I have hired 10 social media people to plug things on Twitter or Facebook, it is much easier for a company to do that than plant or plug in the print or television media. I'm not saying that is not possible, but it is much more easier. So it actually contradicts itself in a way if you look at it. Social media is an easy platform to get through, as he said, to consumers. He said he's preferring social media compared to the traditional medium because it's cheaper, cost effective. Yeah, but then at the same time, it can also hamper the fabric of society in the long run because anybody can plant and plug. It becomes very easy. It happens, but at a very, very controlled rate.
Dale, if you were to essentially, Seth episode.
Yes.
Right? The first question that everyone asked, and his neighbor also accused him, was that this is a plant. Right. This is a plant for promoting the Asian Vinod. So the thing here is, if actually, as media people, if you actually go out and speak to people, consumers who consume our content, believe me, there is a lot of skepticism and cynicism about the content we provide them. Okay. Yes, there are some of the brands, and their credibility is higher than the other. But yes, when I'm watching, the first question is this a plant?
Yeah, even I thought the same thing.
Those questions are becoming
but
far
they could
more.
be just questions. For all you know, it might not be a
plant. At the end of the day, it's credibility, right? If I
so
say,
who investigates that it's not a plant?
No, I'm saying the consumer.
The consumer or the media?
No. What I'm essentially
Whose
saying
investigation is more credible?
No, what I'm essentially saying here is that when look at citizen journalists, right? The program that CNN IPM runs. I think that kind of activism is happening. There's only one channel which has citizen journalists. Now social media allows you to do that. What stops you from, me conducting my own sting operation, carrying a camera to a government office, taking photographs or a video and putting it on social media? Nothing stops me, right? Here, the thing here is that the traditional media as well, the media houses, they do have a credibility issue today, right? And increasingly, that credibility issue, will essentially, there'll be a conflict between this thing and that.
They do have a credibility issue, but they have an editor and a deputy editor and a sub-editor checking their moves and manipulating to an extent that the journalist doesn't go overboard. Or trying to curb that, I would say, rather, not manipulate, but curb that. Whereas with a citizen journalist or a person who's going out with a camera doing a sting, there is no control over him. So he can get swayed and he can do things the way he picturize things the way he wants people to perceive his video, which is very easy, right?
You're going to have a lot of
and then there are thousands and lakhs of people going that way.
He will
believing it.
There will be a lot of regulation.
One more.
In social media, generally what tends to happen, I believe, how social media works is that
Please.
the credibility lies with the person who is bringing about that tweet. Now, if I